getting started here. Alex Answer here. Hope you all survived Valentine's Day 2019. Maybe you just avoid the whole thing like me. You're just don't let all that emo in, because we already have enough problems right now. We have revelations coming out of Portland, Oregon, obviously so. With the text messages, we're going to talk about that as the whole world watches. You Google any news regarding Portland, Oregon, it's off the hook. It's all over. There's this massive revelation that's taking place, and I'm going to break it down for you here and now, tonight. The significance that I see in this, in our lives, and throughout the world. Because there's a lot of arrogance out there. There's a lot of people out there running around saying, we've won, we've won. There's nothing else to do. We've already won. We have the bastards on the run. What we really have is this civil war is not exactly what we have here. We have internal chaos of a predominantly white demographic. We have social media driving it. We have these like artificial movements that rise and fall, rise and fall. And we have, by nature, incredibly influential humans. Humans that are easily influenced, rather, by the things that are influencing them through the online sphere. And if you look at the modern world of human psychology, of course, we have suicide epidemics. We have problems with depression. Many people are having serious relationship problems at this time, but there's a root cause behind it all. There's a reason. And on one level, we're in a fallen world, and so there's a way that Christians can get something from a program like this. There's something I think that even atheists can. I ask that people attempt to suspend disbelief and be willing to step just a little bit outside the box to see things as they are, not as we want them to be. So I uploaded a video that highlighted a revelation. The first point that I want to make is there are times in which my focus goes in the direction of my hometown, because energetically I can pick up on what's going on there, including a lot of things and speculations that you don't hear from me, that you don't hear me discuss. I think that we're dealing with a high-level PSYOPS. Some of you know what that means. And when you're dealing with that type of level of an operation, anytime you so much as say the name of some of these key individuals, the thing is, like, it's I would rather be wrong about certain things. I would rather be wrong. I've been covering the Alex Jones deception for a number of years. I'm not going to go over the cliff notes with you now. And I have speculated openly that his influence, and I don't monitor his show, but what is coming out of his show now is confirmation of things that I've warned about over the years, including I think he'll play a role in, as this border crisis. Let's do a quick segue. This border crisis, this national emergency. And you also got to consider the psychological impact on people that are constantly living under a state of emergency. And there's various ways to take that conversation: psychological impact, intended or unintended psychological impact, because society has to take responsibility for what it's creating, the type of people that it's creating. On one level, you hear people talking about the welfare generation, and on another level, there are other elements of programming that also need to be addressed that are kind of left out of the equation. With regards to the wall and the idea of it having to be done very, very quickly. What is the big event, though, other than the wall that's coming? Is it what we've talked about for years? I would like to be wrong. This is also a time that we have to struggle. We have to overcome. It is somewhat of a struggle. We battle our own demons or archons, lower selves, to rise above the fear which ultimately enslaves us. And I try to infuse some spiritual thought in here without, being overbearing, right? But we need to fight for what's right in this world peacefully. But I'll also say that there's a grander reality than this. We shouldn't let the sickness of this world lower our defenses to the point where we leave the world prematurely. And I feel like I need to come back to this over and over and over because there seems to be a game plan that seems to be a part of the end game. The more I look at society today and the changing psychological landscape, that they're not teaching them in the textbooks. It's like I almost feel like there's a responsibility that I have for even coming upon some of these perspectives to write out some of my thoughts at some point. Modern psychology, what modern humans are going through in this reality, the influence of social media, how social media infects relationships, how social media can be weaponized, how by design they can create radical elements within our nation on the left and the right, and they can let them organize in these secret groups online as they amp up real world events as they send Americans against each other. And that's one phase of a multitude of phases of existence. But that's the phase that we are in right now, and it's not pretty. It's getting to the point where I can see what I was talking about a couple of years ago starting to slowly manifest now, and things moving into action and statements being made by people that are acting like they're possessed on some of these YouTube channels about almost, like I said, almost as if they've been infected with a subliminal. Like once that signal goes out, and you can even see it in the comment sections, there's a lot of acceptance, to speak in a generality, of criminal behavior. When somebody punches first, when that's actually not legal in our nation to do that. That's called assault. Just walk up to a group of people and say somebody pushes you. Well, you don't then have the right to then start swinging on everybody, knocking everybody out. And we have this fight club culture that's being demonstrated in the streets. And so, listen, as a younger guy, I really was attracted to, again, what's called the martial arts and even books about the martial arts. I think I don't enunciate everything perfectly, but Buddha Dharma, the Indian guru or monk that is believed to be the one that brought some of the original martial arts teachings to the Shaolin Temple. I didn't watch all of the episodes from the Kung Fu series, but I like things like that. Books, also earlier movies, but after the 2000s, ironically around the time that a lot of these wars began that are still ongoing, the aggressive fight, violent, really dark overtones, including professional wrestling, where heroes became villains. No longer just the era of the Randy Savage and Rick Rude, Ultimate Warrior, and Hulk Hogan. Now you have the Brock this, the modern expression of the modern steroids, the human growth hormone, as bombs drop around the world, as Donald Trump screams you're fired, as some people literally did lose their jobs in those early 2000s. It wasn't a great time economically. So I really look at tell the tape, if you will, how they've been socially engineering this society to be super warlike. And even before that event that got us in these wars, our modern day code in the post Orwellian reality, we can look back to True Lies, which was made, I believe, in 1994, which was featuring threats um, made on TV regarding certain topics. And then of course, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger coming to the rescue. We see so many roles he's played in Hollywood with regards to predictive programming. Again, in that 2000 clip that I featured in a recent montage video, the Terminator is more reality than fiction. And we can see its manifestation in the Middle East today. So, where are we now? We're in this reality that did not get the collective shift in consciousness with a cherry on top. We have the reality setting in. We have a machine now. You see, this damn machine. I remember back in the day, I reached a lot of people on cable access because there was no way an algorithm could cover it. I was thinking about this earlier. Again, um, that is in the past, but that can come back in the future. But some of you may get ideas from me that are up and coming. If you're ever able to, if you want to reach your community, and you may think about the things that you're going to put on your YouTube channel for your YouTube audience, and then how you keep it real, how you get real with your community. And when you get into, some people evolve faster than I on certain things, and that's a matter of perception, how we're evolving and on what level, whether it's spiritual, analytical, intellectual, search engine optimization, YouTube ranking, which I no, I don't even care about that illusionary matrix. And right now, that is the dominant matrix that has a lot of people under its thumb. I get to what I have addictive moments when I binge watch, okay? And I do a lot of investigative watching. I also feel a little bit intuitive, so I will watch certain things that are recommended. And it will, that little expression, I mean, it's constantly leading me to hardcore fake news. I've mentioned a couple examples, and there'll be certain channels that I don't want to click on, men and women that seem batshit crazy. And there's something about the algorithm, not to just cry wolf, cry conspiracy wolf each and every time. Not necessarily trying to go there. And I'm recognizing the limitations with that type of mindset. I recognize that the algorithm of YouTube on its homepage is showing me the reflection of what people are interested in, what's actually in the zeitgeist. Even though there's a little bit of controls, and then I'm looking at that going, oh my God, but I still think that's the result of the machine going, do you want this? Do you want this? All because it had the tags and this, that, and the other, but perhaps what was said. But I get so frustrated knowing that the content that I create and me being open leads to certain limitations. So I'm always thinking. I'm always thinking of ways to change things up. Thinking about maybe a name, maybe I'll call it the Insusceptible, for maybe a whole new YouTube channel that'll start where I don't use the buzzwords and start fresh and start talking more about particular topicals that specifically affect various demographics. In another video, I could talk about like honest advice for a new YouTuber, whether I follow that advice or not. You know, maybe covering some basics, but people need to know about the limitations. And if we're in an Orwellian type of a reality where they don't want us to talk about certain things, do we then stop talking about those things that are important? Or do we create other mediums, other platforms? Do we get more into writing? The answer is yes, 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 obviously so. Think about just the entire history of your ancestors, even before digital technology. And we had to paint, we had to draw, we had to write things down. Some people had to. Well, you go back far enough, clearly, but we have people that are carving into rocks, actual legends and mythologies. And one of the reasons that that mythology book is so interesting is the goal isn't to find some sort of particular deity to worship, but maybe to understand why certain symbols have come to us, but also, for better or for worse, the light side and the dark side, how some elements of mythology are used for dark purposes. So, a certain individual that's a leader in the far right movement talks about now we need like a spiritual component to really take things to the next level for them to get their ethno state. And I think that you're going to see a heavy Norse mythology component that's going to rise, very Lord of the Rings ish, that's going to catapult some of that. So, you know, I think there's something beautiful about Lord of the Rings and other things and elements of mythology. There's always a way that someone can spin it and say, okay, now these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. These are the barbarians. And I've just been speaking loosely, by the way. I don't consume like nonstop Fox News coverage, but I literally see it. There's a book out there titled Barbarians. And there's a sea of people I will not name where they are using literally sexuality as blonde women to sell a race war. And it's the truth. It's terrifying. There are elements of things that I see that keep me up at night, that lead me to be in a state of mind that is not overly attached to this world. At times I feel like I'm suffering because of certain things I don't have in my life, the loneliness, you know, things I've covered before. By the way, I'm also doing this video with less light than I normally do. So I'm experimenting with slightly less wattage, hoping to get a similar effect and use less power. I'm basically, I've adapted to a life off the grid for a number of years here in a tiny home right now. Um, I'm unplugging this so the light stays on. Off the grid, I use solar. I'm not exactly in the dating scene. I've sacrificed a lot for the truth. And some people understand that right away. Other people like really need a book. And at one point, I'm going to do that. At one point, that's going to be more important to me than perceivably warning you about anything. I do think a lot of things are coming up to a head in this year. And a lot of people aren't on board with the truth. A lot of people are stuck in the past, or a lot of people are stuck in a rather a lower nature in the fight, fight, fight complex. There's a significant amount of our population that does not seem truly intuitive. I think that there are periods in which people are more sensitive and tapped in, and there are periods in which people are more susceptible and the programming that's being thrown at them, it's sticking and it's manifesting. And there are certain genetic dispositions, and this is not um, promoting the illusions of separation, but rather acknowledging there are certain genetic dispositions that some people may fall into unless they choose to rise above their genetic code within this matrix. And so there are ways in which some people may perceive certain people to be their biological enemy. It's unfortunate, but you can't convince the whole world to understand the complex psychology within. If they're living a lie, if they're hypnotized to reject the truth, or to perceive that someone's attacking them, when in fact, right, someone could be trying to assist them to upgrade their psychology to help them in their spiritual evolution. Now, think about that one. I don't know how long I'm going to go in this video. I think I'm going to end on this point. I'm going to try to go in a more spiritual direction, but that's the role that I'm here to play. I'm not here to play sides. I hear people talk about, what would Jesus do? I hear people talk about like Christianity. I hear people talk about their religions, and I've been sitting by for years going, where are all of you people with like such great faith in your God? Why then be so afraid of the surveillance society? And a lot of ideas also come to me when I'm driving. I have tons of clips that I recorded earlier today when I went out. It's Sunday, so I wasn't able to get propane. That's all propane I have for like the next 7 days. Wish me luck. I'm gonna have to conserve like another foot of snow's coming down. Like literally, Snow Maya came and dumped 14 inches in my backyard. We have literally like mountains of snow, like literally. I came up to the mountaintop and I'm looking down on Portland. I'm not interested in promoting violence, but promoting like a deeper understanding of what's going on there. That's also why we look at the story and we do follow-ups. I tell you what I feel intuitively. And back in 2007, I sat with a gentleman that's on the front page of my YouTube channel. And since he was 10, he's had visions of the United States getting hit and it coming from foreign nation powers. Now, that was 2007. It's only right that I continue to keep my focus on this region, but that I don't overly involve myself in, as Shakespeare says, all the world's a play. So the players, in this particular tale that we're seeing there, there's things that I'm feeling in on my intuitive side that I'm not just coming out and saying, because also on the intuitive side, it's now that dangerous. There's a level of organization behind this chaos. And we can see that it comes from the top, but we can see who they're connected to, and obviously who others are connected to, as I've been increasingly so, discussing the Alex Jones deception the last 3 years. Then when you start to see pieces on the chessboard being moved around, also known as pawns, and then you see knights coming out with their type of moves, and whoa, society didn't see this coming. Well, maybe society didn't, but maybe this is just the first wave of the invasion. And who's to say that, they aren't working both sides in some cases? As I know that within elements of the far left in Portland's history, there's been some pretty incredible things that have happened, but ultimately those things have happened, those acts of violence, I suspect at that time, to try to discredit. The attempt is to discredit, like COINTELPRO, to discredit the things that the people are trying to accomplish. And this is done on multiple levels, this level of sabotage. There was another video that I watched in a watching frenzy last night where a former associate of Spencer, someone that was involved in Charlottesville, someone that still supports Donald Trump, he talked for about a half an hour about a number of things I'm not going to repeat. That's what he said on his channel. But, even as someone that's staying true to his political position, he's drawn the line between conservatism and white nationalism, and the idea of one being literally a Trojan horse and people being conditioned in some of these far right movements to do certain things. And then, of course, we see the hand signs and other things. And then it's like becoming a joke. The other thing that, of course, you're going to hear from Alex Answer, perhaps no one else, isn't it interesting? We've been talking about like the reptilian programming and other things, the bloodthirsty nature. And even though like Pep the Frog is a frog, still